Joe, you spoke previously about Paul O'Connell and what he brought to the Ireland team. We've heard the news today that he's retired fully from rugby. Can you give us your reaction to that?
Yeah, I had a chat with Paul recently, and I think it's one of those things that unfortunately all good things come to an end, and even really good things come to an end, and for him, that's a segment of his life, and it definitely was his life along with his family, because he committed everything he could to being the best rugby player he could be, and inevitably he became the best leader he could be as well. So it's a loss for Irish rugby, but at the same time it's one of those things that is inevitable at some stage.
He's mentioned the possibility that he'd like to go into coaching. Would you like to come up against him one day, coaching against him or coaching with him?
I certainly wouldn't want to come up against him physically. There'd only be one winner, and by a long way. I think with the intellectual property he holds, is particularly as a line-out player, but as a forward, and certainly as a breakdown specialist, I think he's got a wealth of ability to contribute technically, but also the character that he is. I think he'd be incredibly good in that team environment, because that's what he's led for the last 15 years of his career.
Players often talk about not owning the jersey and leaving it better when they retire. We can certainly say about Paul that he's left Irish rugby a much stronger and better place, hasn't he?
Well, what hasn't he won? Obviously, there was a real disappointment he didn't even get to contest the last segment of the World Cup. But he's won everything else in rugby. You talk Heineken Cups, you talk the league, the Pro 12 League, Six Nations, Grand Slams, Triple Crowns. He's done everything. He's been part of a Lions victory over in Australia, and so with all those things, he's made an incredible contribution, and the jersey that he has left behind is going to be incredibly difficult to fill for whoever takes his place.
Firstly, on behalf of everybody here at the Irish camp, I'd like to wish Paul the very best in his retirement. I think the words iconic, world-class, legendary are all bandied about, I think, by lots of people, about lots of people, but I think that they're very appropriate in relation to Paul. World-class in everything that he did. I think as a player he was absolutely world-class. As a leader of men, absolutely world-class, and actually as a person, world-class as well. We saw a different side to Paul, I think, right through every time he was in Irish camp. Never asked for anybody to do anything that he wasn't prepared to do himself. He led from the front. During the recent World Cup, he led the team incredibly well right throughout the whole tournament. I think even after he got injured against France, he came back into camp that week, and despite being in obvious pain, again led from the front, and all he thought about was other people and what he could do to help people. I think that's probably the essence of the man, this ability to actually lead and to really put others before himself.
There's a fun side to him as well that was critical, I think, in team spirit as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, Paul has got a great personality. I mean, I think you see Paul when he's out on the pitch, and he has this, I suppose, look in his eyes that would frighten both opponents and teammates at times, but certainly off the pitch, when he's around, go out and have a pint with him, no better company, no man was more fun, and certainly in terms of the banter around the team room, you could see Paul was in the middle of it all the time. So certainly, great company, but I think above all, an extraordinary ambassador for the game of rugby, not only in Ireland but throughout the world.
And we wish him all the best.
Absolutely.
Look, I think Paulie's obviously, he has been a fabulous servant of Irish and Munster rugby over a decade now, and look, I think the contribution he's made to Irish rugby is that I think when he first came in, we were always capable of a big performance here and there. As an Irish fan back then, and now as an Irish player, there's this confidence that we can compete with anyone in the world, and that we're capable of beating anyone in the world. And there was guys like Paulie, and Paulie was one of the main drivers of that we are as good as anyone else in the world, and just because we come from a small island doesn't mean that we're not capable of beating anyone. And like I say, that'll be a massive part of Paulie's legacy.
He had a relentless drive to be competitive, but he also was endlessly good fun off the pitch, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He has good crack. Obviously everyone will remember him for his stuff on the pitch. The way he played, the way he trained, the way he prepared is a real example for any young rugby player coming through, and I think for any rugby player at any level coming through, but also off the pitch. You know, he was a real gentleman, but he was always in the thick of the crack going on, and you know, he was a good guy when you got to relax and had a bit of time, and when we go out for dinners and stuff together as a squad, he's a good man to have at your table.
If he ever turns to coaching, are you hoping that you'll be retired by the time that he does, or would it be fun to be coached by a team by Paul O'Connell?
I think it'll be. I think there's no doubt that if he decides to turn his hand to it, it'll be like everything else he's done throughout his life. You know, he'll be very successful at it. You know, he's a very driven individual. I think from a rugby side of things, his knowledge and his game appreciation is very, very good. So from that side of things, he'll be a very accomplished coach if he turns his hand to it. In terms of, I think I would like to be coached by him. I'm not sure I'd like to be in the forwards on the receiving end of a team that is coached by him, because that, you know, that he'll expect the level, and it'll be the level that he played at himself, and you know, he'll not suffer fools or passengers in that regard either.